This feels a bit strange. You know why it feels strange?
Why does it feel strange?
Because usually when we record together, you do the counting, and I don't feel like I'm interviewing you. I just feel like we're just hanging out.
I mean, that's the whole idea about it. It's supposed to feel natural. You can really tell if things don't flow.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I've got to really sort of expand on introductions and exits, because I always default to the same intros and exits when I do things.
Well, I think that's because familiarity breeds. How do they say it again? Familiarity breeds. I've forgotten it now. It was there on the top of my mind. It was like a saying that people say. But basically, it's a thing that about basically the more you do something, the more it just becomes like a part of you. Like you don't realize you're doing it until like you've already done it, sort of thing. So like, for example, I've started using this sort of podcasty voice. My missus calls it the podcasty voice, and she hates it. So whenever I do it, which I do it in sort of like involuntarily, I'm just like, I'll be saying something and I'm trying to like add emphasis to it, try to make it sound more ridiculous, and I'll do the voice and she'll just like look at me and I'm like, oh, am I doing it again? And she'll be like, yeah. So it's a thing. It's an involuntary thing. I think we just do things sometimes and not realize that we're doing it. Yeah,
I know that feeling.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. How do you think we should do this? How do you think we should do it, like with name wise and stuff? Should we use? Are you comfortable with both names? You comfortable with one name?
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with both names. I mean, my reviews actually has my name on it. Well, only my first.
Your government name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's fine for me to call you by your first name, Henry, Harry Port. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Okay, Henry. All right, so
I've been called a number of things, but Henry's the first.
Oh my god, I almost choked on a mint. I have these mints here, called mints, 50 mints in a canister, a metal canister. They said sugar sweet, they're peppermint.
Oh, I remember Smints. They used to have those ads on TV. They had that slogan, "No Smint, no Kiss."
Seriously, I've never seen an ad for this. You're gonna have to send me the ad. I've never seen the ads for this. And it's a new thing to me. I've never had Smints up until now. Like back in TT, Smints wasn't a thing. It's only since I've been in the UK I've come across these Smint things, and it's a thing. I'm having them.
They still triangle shaped?
Do they what? Sorry?
They still triangle shaped?
They are. They're sort of like a triangle shape with like rounded edges, and there's a spool. It's two colors, so one side is blue, one side is white, and then the white side has this sort of like progressively smaller triangles inside of it, swirling around. So it is still, I mean, is that how it was before?
They were just one color for me, but they were triangle in shape.
Okay, no, this is two colored. So this must be the Smint 2.0. Just a sec. Let me just check something outside of the office. Okay, so we've got a quite the day planned today. Everyone's kind of doing. It's Saturday, so everyone's kind of cleaning up and all that kind of stuff. And I'm in the office recording. Okay. See you. The perks of recording on a Saturday. All these extra things. So that was my son came in to get some dirty dishes. I was cleaning the kitchen before I came up to record, and I guess she's finishing up. So he came in to grab a glass from the office that I had in here. Yeah. So now I just have my mug for my tea. That's going cold already. Anyway, that being said, back to our conversation, Sam. So Sam, is also known as Seraph on the Infinite Backlog YouTube channel. 7.1 subscribers. Yeah, am I correct? 7.1k subscribers, I should say. Not
I
just
was going to
like
say 7, just about 7,100 subscribers, not 7.1.
Exactly. Not just 7 people and a point.
Point
Because I know what a point one of a
10%
person.
of a person, yeah.
1/10 of a person. That's like their pinky toe. So basically, you've been doing YouTube for how many years exactly?
Okay, so the channel wasn't originally about reviewing. I started off the channel with my friend Dan over in Canada. That was, we actually started off doing Let's Plays. The very first one we actually ever put up on the channel was one for a game called Moonbase Alpha, which we've since taken down. And that was, I would be safe to say that is getting to about 10 years. 9,
So this is a
9
whole
at
child.
the very least. 9 at the very least, 10 at about 10 years at most. And
So this is a full-fledged this is a full-fledged child at this point in time, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
10
we
years.
figured, I mean, we weren't going to try and make money off the channel at the time, but we figured we'd just jump on the bandwagon with what everybody else was doing at the time, and doing Let's Plays, because we thought we were hot stuff at the time, and we basically just showcased us having fun playing video games, particularly in this case Moonbase Alpha. Eventually it was Left 4 Dead, well, Left 4 Dead 2 if you want to be exact, and then we got into recording off our consoles, and so with the PlayStation 3 at the time, the trick to recording those, because the PlayStation 3 had HDCP on it, which meant you couldn't just hook it straight into a capture card. You had to strip it off that HDCP so that you could get footage of it. The simplest way you could do that was to hook the PlayStation 3 into a HDMI splitter that could strip the HDCP, and then from the splitter into your capture card. And at the time, I had just gotten the first of my mini capture cards. Well, I had the Hapage, but then I switched to the Elgato Game Capture HD.
Is that how it's said? Hapage? I always say Hapag.
I called it Hapage. That's how I pronounced it.
Okay. Well, you learn something new every day. I think I'll start doing Hapage, because I like to think that you know your pronunciations a bit better than me. So let's go with that. Let's say Hapage. Sounds even better.
This coming from the guy who mispronounces your name in our very first podcast episode for skill points.
Exactly. Perfect. Beautiful pronunciation. You know what? I've since then changed my name to sound like that, on official documents now. I'm like, pronounce it this way. Yes, this is how it should be pronounced now.
But with the Elgato Game Capture HD, what we did, we had a very big roundabout way of recording off it, because the problem with recording off at the time, we were using headsets, so this is well before both Dan and I got broadcasting mics. Was that it was always audio bleed, so you could hear the music coming from my TV or Dan's speakers, and it was bleeding into the microphone. So we had to find a way to record ourselves playing these multiplayer games without the sound coming out of the TV and causing it to double up when we were recording.
Yeah.
So we found a very long-winded way of doing it. So, well, how I did it was, the back of the TV has a headphone jack. So what I did was I got some earplugs with a 3.5mm extension cable, and I ran it from the back of the TV to my head, to my ears, and then I wore my headset over it. So that way I could still hear the game volume, I could still talk to Dan, I could still hear him over the earplugs. And the audio from the game or from the TV wouldn't bleed into the microphone. So it was the perfect way of doing it, but it also
But it was complicated.
It was complicated, and it created a bit of a mess. And the very first game that we trialed this with was Red Dead Redemption. So we played some Red Dead Redemption online, and that video is still up on the channel. So the very early starts of the channel with like the Let's Plays and stuff that we did, those are all still on the channel. And it is
I can see that.
It is a fine reminder of how things started.
It is. I mean, here's the thing, right? I'm looking at the channel, right? Like I've scrolled down to like way back in the cave days and stuff like that. And when I first met you, the first review I saw for you at the time would have been a journalistic review of Classroom Aquatic, if I remember correctly, because I remember seeing that review and I found it amazingly hilarious. And I think that's when I first reached out, because for those who don't know, Sam and I were part of the same team at one point in time, in the sense of like, not just Sam and I, but also Dan as well. They were part of the team on the Button Smashers when it was just Button Smashers blog at the time, I think. And we were all a part of the same team. Everyone was just creating stuff and so forth. And I think it wasn't even you that I reached out to. I think it was Dan, because when I reached out, Dan was the one who responded.
It was actually. I think there was an intermediary. There was a guy that that told us about you.
Was it P3N?
Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, you see, and at the time, P3N was a part of the team as well. And that's the thing, it was, oh wow, memory is so hard, because I'm looking at your channel and it says 7 years ago was when Classroom Aquatic went up. So we've known each other for at least 7 years, which is a long time. You've been a big part of my life, or been a part of my life for this large amount of time. And still, I mean, it's a long time. It's a huge amount of time. 7 years is massive. I didn't even think about it until I'm looking at it on YouTube and it's saying 7 years.
The funny thing with a journalistic review when we first conceived it, because 7 years ago, this was sort of when the whole Gamergate thing was taken off, and journalists were under scrutiny for things like paid reviews or favors from the industry, things like that. And so the original idea behind a journalistic review was not to actually review games seriously. It was to actually take the piss out of journalist practices or journalism practices at the time. And we only started taking reviews seriously when Dan Bioshock, and he told me at the time, I might actually try and do this one seriously. And I said, yeah, okay, go for it. And when he finished that review and he put it up, he told me how much he actually liked doing it. And that's probably our turning point. That's when we decided, okay, this is where we're going to start focusing on reviewing video games.
Like properly giving it an actual proper review, and not just having a joke, a good laugh with it, basically.
Yeah. Well, the one takeaway from those days, and something that we've kept since the journalistic review days, was our rating system.
Yeah, because the rating system is ridiculous. There's no actual. And anyone who tries to make sense of this rating system, you're already failing at the whole point of it. It's just that ratings don't matter. It's about the review, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've said it, and I'll keep saying it until the cows come home, so to speak. That when it comes to review ratings, I don't like to base it on a number. I don't want people buying a game because this outlet or this person gave it a 10, or this person or this outlet gave it an 8 or a 9. I want people to make their own decision up. I mean, I want people to look at what we found that was good in the review, look at what we found that was bad, and to use that to form an opinion and decide whether to buy the game or not, or if you're going to pirate the game or download or emulate the game, I mean, knock yourself out. The rating system has sort of been refined. I mean, back then when we did the rating, we would say something like if 1 was a something and then 10 was something else, and then we would give the nonsense rating because no one would have any sense of scale.
I love the way you say it, that we'd give the nonsense rating. It's really nonsense. But continue, yeah.
But it was about the time BioShock came out that we really started doing this more seriously. I mean, yes, we still did the odd Let's Play. I mean, I think out of all of the Let's Plays that we did, the one I probably enjoyed the most with Dan was the time we played Star Trek. And I mean, this is coming from someone who isn't really into Star Trek at all. And Star Trek, Star Trek, we were laughing our asses off in the first 5 minutes because there was an issue with the tricorders, and the tricorders is like a communication device if I remember right, but there was something in the game where if you walk towards the other player in co-op with the tricorder out, they would magically start growing bigger and smaller.
Yeah.
And it was only the first 10 minutes of the game we were just laughing our asses off. Funny enough though, Dan actually did the review after we finished playing Star Trek. But if you look at the chronological order, we actually put the review up before the Let's Play. But,
and the thing is that I don't remember the Let's Plays. I probably did watch them at the time, but I remember the review because I specifically remember watching that review. I do not remember the Let's Plays at all, and I probably did watch them at the time, way back when. But I generally don't remember it. Like, I remember the BioShock review. I remember the review for that aquatic thing. And looking back at some of the earlier reviews as well, it brings back a certain percentage of like nostalgia, because it takes me back mentally back to that time when I first met you guys, when we first met, and it was like, oh wow, and it takes me way back.
I think Deep Fighter was where Dan first started taking it a little bit more seriously. BioShock was BioShock, I still have to say, was the first time it was done seriously.
Yeah.
It was the first real attempt. Classroom Aquatic came in between. It was actually the very first. Classroom Aquatic was actually the very first review I'd done.
And here's a question. So Dan is no longer a part of Infinite Backlog, correct?
That's correct.
And so he's moved on. He's with Destructoid.
Yeah. So I'd say it's about 4 years now. 2020, 1918. Yeah, 2017. About 2017, he went and took a course. He went and took a course in journalism, I believe. And he started small, doing freelance work, and ultimately got picked up by Destructoid. He was on a part-time contract with them, just editing their videos and stuff. And he also did his own for them. And I believe he earlier this year he started working full-time for them.
So you got a full-time contract with them. And the thing is that mentioning Dan in this whole context, I mean, he is a part of this whole story. But Dan and I because you and I have history, Dan and I also have history, but separate history. Our histories, a separate sort of thing. I mean, when Dan and I last spoke, it was a long time ago. We haven't spoken in a long time. And actually, it was because at the time when you guys joined the team and you guys came on and we did some stuff together and all that kind of stuff. At some point in that whole equation, the decision was made that you guys wanted to leave, and the decision was no one spoke to me about it, and all I remember was the accounts just like, if I remember correctly, I think all of Dan's accounts just were closed down on the side, and and whenever I reached out to him, I couldn't get anything. And I remember reaching out to you, and you explained to me, you were like, hey, yeah, we've decided that we're just gonna focus on our own thing for now. We're not, we want to just focus on this. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, so why didn't Dan say something, And he's like, oh, I can't remember you. Well, you remember more from what you told me, because I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah,
but at that point in time,
I mean, Dan was going through stuff at the time as well.
Yeah,
because I believe this event probably happened before I flew over to Canada and actually met Dan for the first time. Because since then we've met up a couple of times in person. One time was in 2016, and the other time was just a couple of years ago, 2019. And I think at the time he was just going through some stuff. And I mean, looking back at it now, I mean, whenever I talked to Dan, he said he probably could have handled it better. But I mean, at the end of the day, I can't really go back and change something in the past if it's already happened,
Yeah, what's done is done. And I think at the time too, when it happened, because of the fact that everyone who joined the team during that span of time, I saw as like a really close friend, as a part of like a family of things at the time that we were doing. It really hurt me it hurt me when like that he didn't say something. Like, it was like, he didn't just come out and say, hey, because I thought we were cool. So I was like, because we were friends on Facebook, we were friends on all these different places and so forth. We would talk every now and then, and he just like removed me from everything. And I was like, what happened? Like,
account anymore, by the way.
Well, yeah, I would assume as much. But to me, it was shocking. I was like, did I do something? Because every time if I end up deleting someone from everything, it's because they've done something. They've done something to wrong me in some way, and I've decided, look, this person is not a good. I don't want to have them as a part of my life anymore. And so at first, I started to wonder, did I do something? Until you and I spoke, and you told me, no, it was just a decision made and so forth. But that being said, since then, I mean, how does it go? Time heals all wounds, basically. I mean, at this point in time in my life, I have no hard feelings towards the guy. But it's just, it was a weird thing. It was really weird for me at that point in time. It was like what happened, and then we spoke, and you and I have maintained our friendship since then. But yeah, I've not spoken to the guy since. So up until recently, when you told me he was working at Destructor, I had no idea what he was doing. I had absolutely no idea, because I wasn't keeping track. I would literally only watch a review on your channel if I knew you were the one who did it. At that point in time, I was just like, I will not give this guy any of my time. And but yeah, I mean, since then I've just sort of mellowed out about that kind of stuff. It just doesn't really bother me anymore. But this is not about Dan, is it?
No, not particularly. But I mean, I'm mentioning it because he's part of the history of.
He is part of the history. He is part of his history. Dan, if you're listening to this, hi, bud. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, basically, you guys started this together. You started Infinite Backlog together, but now Dan is a Destructoid. He's doing pretty well there, and he does a podcast on Destructoid right now, and you've made some appearances on it, some guest appearances, yeah?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we actually had 3 of us working on the channel at one point. So there was Dan, there was myself, and there was a third guy, who goes by the nickname of Stingos. So his name is Stingos, Justin, yeah. And he lives over in Philadelphia. So, him, Dan, and I, we reviewed things for a few years, and you'll see the odd review by Stingos up. He actually does editing work for Destructoid as well. So
wow.
Dan brought him on board to help out as a video editor, and he also voices some reviews. So you may hear him in some of Destructoid's videos. But Dan and Justin mostly do a lot of the impulses. Sometimes Dan will have me on. Other times he'll just do them himself. But I mean he does his thing. Him and Justin do their things. I do my own.
And is this why like, okay, so the channel your channel initially started off as at least when I found it, was Cynical Bastards was the name of the channel, and now it's Infinite Backlog. And it's changed a lot in that time. Even when it initially started off in Infinite Backlog, it's changed from what Infinite Backlog began, which was, if I remember correctly, because of the fact that you guys reviewed games that were already out for a while, and it was in your backlog of games that you wanted to play, and you just reviewed it, not because of any embargo, not because of any particular time frame. It was just, I like this game, or I'm interested in this game in some way, shape, or form, and I want to review it. And then it just became...
It was sort of like that. I mean, a journalistic review was like that as well, and you can sort of tell when we took things seriously, because with a journalistic review, I tried to branch out and do my own things. So the first review I did after BioShock was a game called Master of Darkness, and that was on the Sega Master System. So this is also the point in time where I got back into collecting old video games again. Because Master of Darkness, Ys, and Golden Axe Warrior were the first games I got as part. I got to kickstart my my Master System collection again. And Ys was never a part of me growing up. It was just because there was a pretty good deal on it on a second-hand website at the time, and I managed to snatch it up for pretty cheap.
Okay.
But,
okay.
I started taking reviewing more seriously and getting the equipment, which I'm well known for. About the time you saw a review up for, I believe it was Silent Hill Book of Memories.
Silent Hill Book of Memories.
So Silent Hill Book of Memories is a Vita game. So the key thing to note about that particular review was that was up before the PlayStation TV became a thing.
Yeah, because you had I remember when we about the time when we first met as well, and the Vita was a thing, but it wasn't like this super popular thing. And I remember you mentioning that you got this custom made Vita, and I was like, sorry, what? And you told me like it had all these things, and I think you sent me pictures at the time of how it was like modded so that you can capture footage from it.
Yeah,
and I was like, good lord.
I still have that Vita, by the way. It's a Vita that had been modded with a USB capture device. So I could plug it into the computer, and using a program I would capture footage directly off it. The problem with it though was that it didn't capture very good sound quality. So what I had to do was I had to buy an audio cable. So it was just an auxiliary cable, a 3.5 millimeter cable, to go from the Vita to the back of the computer into the microphone jack. The problem with that though is that the noise was unfiltered. So while I was recording, despite the fact that most of the time I was going to have music and my voice over it anyway, there would still be a background humming sound in all of the footage I was recording.
Yeah.
And that wasn't going to fly if I was going to show off examples of music or sound. So I ended up buying and it was just a cheap audio filter for maybe about 10, 15 New Zealand dollars. And that sort of just went in between the microphone jack and the auxiliary cable, and that pretty much did the trick. Because shortly after I got the Vita modified with a capture device, and this was perhaps a couple of episodes later, I did one for a game called Jaws Ultimate Predator on the Nintendo 3DS. So I got a capture device put on a 3DS. And a few years later, or maybe a year or two later, I got the same device put on the new 3DS, which is what I'm still currently using today.
And I remember when you did these, because when I asked you about it, you were like, oh yeah, it's like double the price of the regular thing. And I'm like, seriously? You're like, yeah, I'm paying twice the amount for this thing. And I'm like, good lord, you are dedicated to your craft, good sir.
The thing was, though, is I probably should have capitalized on it more, because obviously at the time, because of how expensive those capture cards were, reviews from 3DS games and Vita games they weren't really up to what I would consider a standard that I would watch. I mean, if I wanted to watch footage of a Vita or a 3DS game, I don't want to watch someone holding a camera over their Vita or 3DS and playing it terribly.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the review for Silent Hill Book of Memories absolutely takes the piss out of that. Right at the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
But I could pinpoint roughly about the time we were associated with one another, because in between Book of Shadows and Jaws, we did a review for a certain party game that we all played. 100% orange juice.
100% orange juice. You know what? Even outside of 100% orange juice, around that point in time as well, there's also a review for PES 2014 that you guys reviewed at that time as well, around that same sort of time.
It was Dan
frame.
that did that one.
I remember that one. I remember that review because he made all these ridiculous characters and put them in there in the review, and it was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw it. It was insane. But I remember the One Finger Death Punch one as well. I remember that. I think you guys were the ones, if I remember correctly, you guys got me a copy of that game because I had not heard of it before, and I think you guys were playing this a lot. And you're like, oh well, we'll get you a copy because it's not that expensive. And I enjoyed it so much that I ended up purchasing a copy for everyone on the team at the time. Just so we could play it together, because on Steam, this is one of the few games that's multiplayer that you can buy as a 4-pack. Like you can purchase it in a set, and it's cheaper if you buy it in a set. And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna buy sets of these and just give it away to friends and people to play with, and I did, and it was because of you guys. So thank you.
I remember for PES as well. Just to again take the piss. Dan intentionally kept calling the sport shoe sphere instead of football or soccer. And at the time it was pretty controversial, and there was a number of people that got upset over it.
I was laughing, and that's despite the fact that I'm a huge football fan, because and to a certain extent I knew what was coming because I knew the kind of humor that you guys worked with. So when it was, I believe at the time, I think Dan had told me he was working on it, and we were talking about it and stuff like that. I kind of knew what was going to happen because if I remember correctly, he was sending me screens of the characters he was creating or something like that. And we just had a laugh. Like I remember when the review went up, I just laughed so hard. I was like, my God, this is hilarious. And yeah, because at the time I wasn't even playing PES myself. I was not actually actively playing PES. And if I'm correct, he got it as a part of PS Plus, was it, at the time?
Possibly. I can't actually remember that one too well. I remembered him sending me the screenshots because he made each of us in the game as players.
Yeah.
But I think there was a point in time where we were watching, because we were both browsing 4chan quite regularly at the time. And 4chan always held an event called the 4chan Cup, which is where all of the boards of 4chan would create a team in pairs, and they would duke it off against one another in like a big tournament. And I mean, they're still doing this today. They still have
it still happens.
They still have pairs tournaments for 4chan boards today.
Seriously? Good Lord, I want to check this out. I mean, I'm invested in PES now, so I think I want to check this out. I don't want to Google it and search it right now because when you put 4chan in any search, you don't know what you're gonna get. But I'm gonna have to look into this in a bit. The 4chan Cup. That is interesting. I didn't know they still did that. Oh, I shouldn't say that they still. I didn't know they did it. So, I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I am intrigued very much.
But one of the things that you may notice with some of the stuff I was putting up during the early days, and I still do the odd one now and again, is you may notice that I tend to try and put up stuff that nobody's actually heard of.
Yeah, you do. You do put up and a lot of times too, like you'll tell me you're working on something, and I'll be like, so what is it? And you'll be like, I'm not gonna tell you. You'll find out. And I'm like, no, Sam, I want to know. And you're like, I'm tempted to tell you, but no, you'll find out tomorrow. And oh my God, it bugs me like the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, I want to know. But
if there's one thing I like is I like surprises. So
yeah.
If it's
I like
something
surprising people.
if it's something I've got high hopes for, if it's something I've put a lot of effort into, or something I'm just working on in general, I usually try to keep quiet about it. The only time I'm usually more than happy to is if I've got a key for it, and I know you've got a key as well, or if the game is
we gotta
already
talk.
out and is
At that point in time, we
semi-recent.
got to talk about it.
But about that time, not too long after the days of Pez, I would say even just a couple of months later, this is when a journalistic review ended. So we finished up the journalistic review on episode 23. And episode 23 was one of my reviews. It was Onimusha 2. Because I reviewed Onimusha 1 just before it. And Dan wanted to make a new series to reflect what we were doing. And at the time, we didn't have an idea of what we were going to call this series. And we were going around trying to find something that would stick. I opened up Photoshop, trying to make a logo. And eventually we settled on the title of Infinite Backlog, because obviously with all of these new games coming out, we're never going to really get to the end of them.
Yeah. You
And
always
so
have a backlog.
I created the logo, which is the one that you see today. It's the infinity sign with the word Infinite Backlog in front of it. And Dan started off with the first episode of Infinite Backlog in August of 2014, and that was for Half-Life, or the source version of Half-Life.
And that review has about 37,000 views to date. It's actually your, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, am I counting correctly? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th most viewed review, is it? So it's in your top 20 most viewed videos on the channel. So it's a substantial video actually, and
I'd like
the
to
videos
say,
ahead of.
I'd like to say in the most popular uploads. No, I think it's in the top 10. Oh no, it's not. No, it's not.
It's 11th. Is it? It's 11th because it's 3 videos across, and it's the second to last one, so it will put it at 11th because the Farming Simulator 15 is 12th most viewed, so it's 11th actually. It's not in the top 10.
That was one of Dan's as well, so safe to say that I've now kicked him out of the top 10 list.
Actually, and here's the thing: most of the games in the top 10 list are farming games. They're all Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons, which is insane because I jokingly call you the farming sim king, you know, because those are the games that the reviews that I know you do that I'm just like, you do top-notch stuff for. I'm like super intrigued by, because a lot of times you review farming sims that I don't end up playing. Like for example, Rune Factory. I don't play Rune Factory or Harvest Moon at this point in time, but you do, and you get insane numbers off of it. You know.
Yeah, I think though because there's now more attention on Story of Seasons and Harvest Moon, they're not pulling the numbers like they used to.
Yeah.
But at the time, I mean, with games like Harvest Moon, Skytree Village, and the Lost Valley, there weren't really any ways of effectively recording those games because they were both 3DS games, and I had the tools to do so. Rune Factory Tides of Destiny, that was the first Rune Factory game I reviewed, and that's because it was a game that I remember fondly. It's also a game I never finished, so I wanted to sit down and finish that game properly.
Did you?
Seeds of Memories was the first Harvest Moon game, first full Harvest Moon game that was on a mobile device, and I had just obtained the means to record off that at the time. But Story of Seasons, to this date, the first Story of Seasons game to this date still remains my most popular review, just shy of 200,000.
You know what? That's similar to like my PES review. I have my highest viewed video on my channel, or at least on one of my channels, is a PES review, and it's about the same amount. It's like either 190 something K or 180 something K. I'm not 100% sure, but it's similar in that sense. And it's a video from not recent times, and it's, I think, for similar reasons as what you're mentioning, which is that No, actually, it's 179. If I'm being accurate, it's 179. But the thing is, for similar reasons like you mentioned, right? More people are covering PES now, so I found my newer PES reviews have been cannibalized since 2020. Because 2021, when I reviewed PES, it tanked. Like, to the extent that usually I could put up a review at any point in time within the launch window of like a month or two within that window, and I would still do good numbers. And this year when I did it, it didn't happen that way. I put it up and it didn't do as insane numbers as before, and it's because when I started searching, there were more people reviewing PES now. So I was like, God damn it, what is wrong with you people? Why are you reviewing PES now? But it is what it is. That's how the market works. If you're not ahead, you're gonna fall behind. And I think within this sort of space, this creative space, it's all about keeping your edge. Because the minute that you step back, someone's ready to take your spot. So it is what it is. I think.
Well, for me, reviewing has first and foremost been a hobby for me. So. So unless I've gotten a key for a game, I usually take my time when it comes to reviewing. The rule I set for farming simulator games like Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, Rune Factory, is I would like to traditionally try and get all the footage I need for the first year to base my review on. If I get all of that footage of the first year quick enough, then I'll go into overtime and I'll keep playing until I get to a point where I'm satisfied. I also try to branch out from Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, and Rune Factory. So you've seen a review that I've put up for Stardew Valley, but Stardew Valley has taken off and it's making its own waves. And I also did a more obscure one called World's Dawn, which is a farming simulator created entirely in RPG Maker, which to me is an absolute achievement. Props to the guy who did it. He's doing another game, A Story Beside. I believe that's finished, and that's on my list of things to do at some point.
There's some. I think there's an upcoming farming sim. I don't know if you know of it yet. Let me see if I can find it. Farming sim. It's an upcoming one, and I saw it. It has some 3D style to it. I saw it on some YouTubers' channels. Someone was covering it, and I don't know how it was suggested to me. And it looked great, It looked like the future of farming simulators. So it was like a bit of what Story of Seasons does, a bit of what everything else does, a bit of Stardew Valley, and yeah, it looked great. The character designs looked great. It was 3D, and it's kickstarted. I think it was kickstarted. So let me see, Kickstarter farming sim. See if I'm correct. Let's see if it pops up. Coral Island. I think that's the name of it. Coral Island's the name of it. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I think you actually mentioned it to me. You mentioned it to me before. I will get around. I will get around to it. Well, I might get around to it. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I'm working on. I feel like the next couple of months, I'm going to be very, very busy with what's coming out.
I don't think Coral Island is coming out anytime soon, though. This is still in development. It looks like it's got a lot of work done on it so far. Based on the screens and the sort of clips that they have, it looks like there's a good bit of the development has been done, and they're just sort of like polishing and adding things to it at this point. Sort of like building out the product, but it looks pretty stable for the most part. Like, it looks like a couple more months or another year and it will be done at this point in time, maybe even less time than that. So who knows? I personally I'm intrigued by Coral Island. I think it looks great. I didn't get in on the Kickstarter. I found out sometime. Is it still in Kickstarter? Like, can you still kickstart this? Let's see.
If the game's going to come out in early access, I'm still a bit iffy on early access, so I now sort of try to look at playing early access games when they're finished now.
Yeah, when they've actually been properly completed. Yeah.
I think the last time I made an exception to the rule was last year when I was. It was last year, I believe, when I reviewed a game called Maho Arms through Sekai Project.
Yeah.
And that was because I'd seen some footage of it, and it looked really stylish and really cool. So I figured, okay, well, I wonder if Sekai Project has a press person that I could approach. Speaking of that, though, I mean, when the channel really started taking off, and when we were getting right into the swing of doing these reviews and dropping back from doing all the Let's Plays and that, I mean, we were still doing Cynical Bastards Adventures, which were just Let's Plays of us playing Grand Theft Auto Online. When we eventually dropped that and started focusing on reviews sort of full time, that is probably about the time I had thought of talking to publishers and PR people.
That's I mean, and the thing is that for the stuff that you guys do, it wouldn't have. I would like to assume it didn't take a lot of effort, did it, to sort of like get publishers and PR people to like take you seriously and say, hey, yeah, let's send you a copy of something.
In all honesty, I don't believe that I got a publisher to even respond to me until I think it was after my trip to see Dan the first time. I came back and I kept trying, and I think the first publisher that got back to me was not publisher. The first PR network that got back to me, I believe, was Decibel, who do Marvelous.
Yeah. They were the first to sort of like say, hey, yeah, let's we'll be fine with sending you a copy for something.
And I believe the first time I actually did a review for a game that I got a review code, a review key from a PR network for, was for Nitro Plus Blasters Heroines Infinite Duel, and that was shortly after I came back from Canada.
I remember that game. I remember Nitro Plus Blasters. I don't believe I remember liking it though. I remember it, but I do not remember having a good opinion of it. And I can't remember why. It was
the first and only time I reviewed a fighting game.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, you know, that like I've also wanted to review some fighting games because on my main channel, some of my best reviews on there were fighting games. And obviously it means, you know, people are looking for fighting games reviews, and if I were to review fighting games, it would probably be very beneficial to me. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure what to write about them. Like, yeah, I like certain fighting games. I like certain mechanics, and I've reviewed fighting games as well. But it's been a while since I've reviewed one. And you know, if you haven't done something in a while, it's sort of like you kind of forget how to do it. At least that's how it is for me. I don't remember how to review fighting games, to be honest. I do not remember how to do it. So
I try to avoid games where I'm not good at them, because I want to do the game some justice.
Yeah.
And I mean, people aren't going to pick up a game if I'm going to play it badly.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that I because of the way I tend to do reviews, one, I try to stay away from spoilers because I hate spoilers myself personally. So I try to shy away from spoilers. Like, I'll play a game and I'll have footage from the end game and I'll be like, oh, this footage looks great. But I will rarely ever put that into a review because I'm like, this could spoil a character for someone or some plot line, and maybe they see something that they weren't supposed to see, like a level that maybe the first time they would have seen it, they'd be like, oh my god, that level looks cool, and then they saw it in my review and then they're no longer inspired by it or happy to see it, that kind of thing. And with fighting games, if I remember correctly, I'm really this is a huge stretch because, again, as I say, I don't remember how to review a fighting game. At least I don't think I do. It's sort of a thing where fighting games have a short story because they're fighting games, and I think the main premise is about the mechanics and how you play them. I'm, like you, terrible at fighting games, but I'm good enough that I can get by, you know. I'm good enough to like, I can do a half circle ring, you know. I could do a back forward in Mortal Kombat with a triangle or something, you know, that kind of stuff. I can pull it. I can do a Raging Demon in Street Fighter. Once I've set the controls a certain way, I can pull off a Raging Demon in Street Fighter. But that being said, I don't know if I've got it still. I don't know if I like, I may things that I may harken on, I think traditional fighting games fans would see as ridiculous, because I remember reviewing a game called what's it called again? It's an anime fighting game. Ooh, think. My Hero One's Justice 2. And I went in on that game because I didn't enjoy the game. I didn't enjoy certain aspects of it. And I remember after my review went live and I was just like, you know, living my life, at some point in time, I started seeing reviews from other people who were into fighting games, 3D fighting games, and they were loving it. They were like, oh, it's been improved. It's so much better than the first one. And all these mechanics are great. And I was like, good Lord. Like, someone reads my review, they're going to be like, my God. But then again, that's the whole point about a review. A review is an opinion from someone's perspective. It doesn't really matter as much. You know, if maybe their perspective matches yours and it's fine, but if not, you know, shouldn't
it's
ruin
like
your
movies.
life.
I mean, you'll see movies out there that have got people that absolutely love it, and the general consensus is that everybody likes this movie, but you'll have maybe a handful of people that didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone is going to like a particular video game. You're going to get someone out there who either doesn't enjoy it, or struggles with it, or just doesn't fit their palate.
Yeah. It's true. It's definitely
You got to
true.
remember first and foremost that a review is to help influence a decision for someone to play a game, not
even to help them play a game. For me, it's about influencing someone's, not even influence, but more or less giving them the resources they need to make an informed decision. You know, because maybe the informed decision isn't to buy the game. Maybe the informed decision is that I see it, I've heard about the mechanics, I've heard about the story, and I don't like what I've heard, so I'm not gonna buy it. You know? So I think it's about education, really. I think for me, I see a review as an educational tool to educate someone on a title that they may be interested in or may not be interested in. You know? So at least that's the way I see it.
I mean, that's the other thing I also take into consideration, because you'll see the odd comment on a lot of the reviews that I do about heavy fan service games. Is a lot of people will comment that I don't really joke about it. I just take it all seriously. So when it comes to like a fan service game, I mean, just about everybody knows that when it comes to an anime, you'll find that fan service is a very common occurrence with a lot of series. And I mean, with the way that with the audience that I direct it to, I base on the assumption that maybe people have seen this sort of stuff. There's no need to sugarcoat it. There's no need to bash on the fact that there is fan service, because that's exactly what you're getting when you go into it. That is the reason. I mean, I try to talk about the gameplay mechanics. I try to talk about the story, and I usually put a disclaimer so that way if people who aren't comfortable with fan service knows that they're about to watch something with a lot of fan service in it, and they can avoid it if they don't want to watch it.
Exactly. You know, so you give them a heads up in advance. I mean, for me personally, I don't put the disclaimer. Sometimes I mention it in the beginning of the review, like I may mention this game is not for kids or something like that. But generally speaking, I kind of figure anyone who's going to click on a review from me already knows what they're getting into. Because generally speaking, on my main channel, I love fan service games and I love covering them. And so if anyone wants to check a review from me and I happen to cover a fan service game, don't feel bad, man. I have other channels that don't cover fan service games. You can go over there. But if you come into my main channel, that's where you're going to get heavy fan service. And I think it's the same for you, because we both appreciate fan service, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see why some people have a problem with it. I don't get it, but people do. And I always say, hey, it's fine if you have a problem with it, but don't try to shit on other people's fun. Just live and let live. You don't have to purchase those types of games if you don't want to. And you not purchasing those games, or you basically doesn't hurt anyone. Basically, you can just buy the games you want and enjoy life. As simple as that. Live and let live is the way I look at it. But to keep with that whole fan service thing, I would like to ask a question. As a fan of fan service, does that mean you're an anime fan?
Yeah. I mean, growing up, I actually used to go. I actually was part of a group that would meet up on a Saturday night, much like now, to watch a series.
And what is the last anime you remember watching, basically?
Oh, now I'm thinking.
And I'm asking this question. I can't remember the last one I watched, actually. I know it had fan service in it. That I know. I do know that the last anime I watched had fan service in it. I just can't remember what it was.
I remembered losing interest with the group I was in, because when I started with that group, I was really heavily into fan service. I mean, I was a teenager at the time, and that sort of stuff was the stuff you wanted to look at.
And you don't like Striggle anymore?
No, I wouldn't say it's entirely gone. I think my tastes changed as I matured. So as I grew from teenager to young man, I started getting more interested with psychological thrillers and horrors, and moving from that, I'm still big on psychological thrillers and horrors, but I've also gained an appreciation for mechas. I like my robots. This is also evident by my other heavy hitters. If you look at the top 10 videos.
Yeah, your top 3 most viewed videos, it's 1 Story of Season and 2 Gundam games. So there's New Gundam Breaker and Gundam Breaker 3. Those are in your top 3. That's number 2 and number 3, basically. So, yeah, it's a huge part of your channel, a huge part of you. And I think that's the thing. You're sort of like split between farming sims and big giant robots with guns and stuff like that. That's kind of you in a nutshell. If someone were to ask me, like, how can you sum up Sam in like 2 games, it would be Gundam and Story of Seasons or something, So, yeah. And that's the thing though. If you had to sum me up in 2 games, what would they be actually?
I think it would be fairly simple. One is Pairs, of course.
And
the other one I would probably say Senran and Kagura.
Oh my god, you know what? This is why we know each other so well. You know what? You're right. You're 100% right. 120% right. It would be Peasants and Kagura. That is the perfect way to sort of like describe me in game form. I like my fan service and I like my football, so you give me 2 of those things, I'll live, Oh my god, that's brilliant. That is, you know what? That could be a thing if you could sum up someone in 2 games. Those of you listening to this episode at this point in time, sum yourself up in the comments wherever this podcast is, or interview, wherever it is that you listen to this. Sum yourself up in 2 games. What are 2 games that best describe you? Put them in the comments wherever this is. And because we want to know. I want to know. How do we sum you up in 2 games?
I mean, even the 2 games that you have in. Even the 2 games I was able to sum you up with. I mean, those two games have things in common.
How so?
Big round things.
You are brilliant, good sir. You are brilliant. Another question is: has your taste in fan service? Now, you said that your taste in media has changed, but has your taste in fan service changed? Like, is there a particular type of fan service that you prefer now that you didn't as a kid, or Or is it
No,
just...
I'm still a degenerate. I enjoy Senran Kagura also. So so that was the sort of fan service I was into way back when.
And you still
so,
are.
That's always going to be a part of me, and it's not going to be a part that I'm going to run away from. It's not going to be a part that I would hide. It is a part of who I am.
Exactly. Not ashamed of it. Just it is me. I love that.
Going back to Nitro Plus, Nitro Plus also hinted at something else. It actually hints at something that's currently happening right now.
What, COVID?
No. So if you watch the Nitro Plus review, I actually recorded some online matches. And with Nitro Plus, the person I played online with at the time, and I did credit him in the video description, is my current co-host.
Oh, okay. I was actually thinking you were gonna say me because I was like, wait a minute, am I in this? I kind of wish I was in everyone's reviews. I would like to hope all my closest friends who do content creations and stuff, like whenever they're making a video, they're thinking, how do I put Q in this review? This is a review.
I put you in Pioneers of Olivetown.
You did put me in Pioneers of Olivetown, and I was brilliant. I was like, yes, perfectly. I couldn't find you.
You
in
were
the
worried
game,
though, because I said to you when I was working.
You were putting me in the
review,
bad
hey,
part.
I put you in the review. You're just in the bad.
It's like, no, I want to be in the good. The good reasons to play this game. Q is in here.
I think though you now understand why I've put you there.
Yeah, definitely, because that's one of the aspects of the game that we both found to be underwhelming. The fact of the whole visitors part of the game is just underwhelming, and it's again, not to say that the game is bad. Story of Season 3 of Town. What's the name of it? Pioneers of Olivetown.
Pioneers of Olivetown.
Yeah, that game it's a really good game. I enjoy it. It's just there's some mechanics, some aspects of the game that just haven't been fleshed out well enough. Like I think it could be better. And I haven't played it since review. Have you?
Yeah, I played a couple of days. But my main focus is the other Harvest Moon game. So probably by the time this video is out, I would have probably finished it. When I say video, I mean this interview. Sorry, by the time this interview's out, I would have probably finished the review, or the review would be very, very close to being finished.
And then I will pop on the review and leave my comment. This game is trash, Sam. I don't know why you even give it your time.
In saying that, it has surprised me in ways. That game has taken a step in the right direction.
But it's still trash.
I will leave it at that.
But it's still trash, though, isn't it? Admit it.
That game has a Laura too, just a different one to the one from Pioneers of Olivetown.
Yes, but the game is still trash, though. Look at that game, man. Every time I see it, I'm like, why did they make this mobile game? Stop making mobile games and putting them on Switch. Make a good-looking game, I don't know. And you know what's the weird thing? Who is the artist for Harvest Moon now? Like, why can't they get hire someone who's like a good artist or something like that? Because you look at the artwork in Harvest Moon these days, and it looks like a very something that someone could put together on, I don't know, like you could get it off of some teenager's Tumblr account or something, who's not very good at art, who's just good enough.
Art is subjective. I think it's okay.
Would you pick it over Story of Seasons art?
Clearly not, no.
Obviously, and that's the point. Story of Seasons, and this is the thing, the original Harvest Moon games, I love their art in the original Harvest Moon games more than the new ones. Again, I think the new one, the way they design the characters, the way they just the way they do it just looks basic. It looks like something you would see on a mobile game, and it irks me. It annoys me to see it look that way because of the fact that this is a series that I had so much good history with, and now it's become this very basic looking mobile game. And even when they do their logo, the logo itself looks basic now. It doesn't look as detailed as the logo before. I find the original logo looked better for some reason. Sorry?
Hang on a second.
Oh, we've got an interruption.
I'll take a look at it later.
Ooh la la. I will take a look at this later when I'm, doing the taxes and stuff. Yes, very nice. Very, very nice.
One thing I would like to do, though, to be fair, is I want to take more of a back seat and focus more on retro games, a lot of the older stuff that I enjoyed as I was growing up. I was actually working on one before I got my code for Romance of the Three Kingdoms 14, which I'm going to work on straight after Harvest Moon, and Story of Seasons. I was actually working on an older PS1 game that I was going to put up at some stage.
Then do it. But I mean, granted though, the odds of you only focusing, like taking a back seat and giving classic games your full time is very low, at least in my opinion, because Samurai Warriors is going to still release a new game, and there's no way you're going to say no to a Samurai Warriors key. There's going to be more story seasons. There's no way you're going to say no to a story season key. And Gundam, there are going to be more Gundam games, and there's no way you're going to say no to those keys. So at the end of the day, I don't know who you're trying to fool with this. We both know what's going to happen here.
Because another thing you could probably sum me up with when it comes to games is I'm a bit of a history buff. So history is something I like to talk to people about. And I've had a keen interest in history since I was a kid. And I actually have to hold myself back with some of my reviews so that it actually stays a review and not become a history lesson.
I think if you did a history lesson video and it was like 50 minutes long or something, and it was properly packed with everything that you do in your reviews, the quality you put in and all that kind of stuff, I think it would do well. I genuinely believe it would do well.
I actually have a friend that I talk history with on a regular basis. We meet up on Tuesdays and we play Valheim at the moment. And he's a bit of a history buff himself, and we usually exchange stuff that we know about various people and various points of time in history. So we sort of bounce stuff off one another, which is pretty neat. But I think the way that I sort of explain history is I try to put it in a way where it doesn't sound boring. Yeah. Because when it comes to history, people just tune out as soon as the whole topic of history comes up, because history is boring and this stuff happened. I think if you make it relatable, people will be more interested in it.
Indeed, they will. If you do add it's like adding honey to the food or something like that. And here's the thing, right? This is related to what we're discussing, not history, but it's related to what we've discussed in the podcast. Remember when we were both reviewing Story of Seasons, and you told me this is why we can't have nice things?
I may have said something like that, yes.
Do you remember why you said that in Story of Seasons?
No, what was it? What was it again?
It was related to the screenshots. The pictures that you could take with a camera and would show up in other people's games.
Oh, right. Yes. I made a point about it. I made a point about it in the bad because people thought it was funny just to take a photo of a fox's arsehole.
And apparently, some website, what's it called again? This website is called NintendoLife.com, have written an article about some of the pictures that people have taken. And it includes someone trying to take an underskirt picture of what's the girl's name with the high stockings? Raina. So someone's trying to take a picture of Raina sitting down, and they're taking pictures of Laura's boobs. And of course, the same one you mentioned, the fox's arsehole, his butt cheeks are there. And then there are crotch shots from other characters and so forth. So it's like, man, you know what? People have no behavior. And I think the thing is, it's amazing how that fox butt cheek, is on everyone. Everyone has seen this. Like, I saw it in my game, and I was like, okay, well, that's a thing. You saw it in your game. I know Nintendo Life is writing about it. Like, everyone knows about this famous fox butthole. The person who ever took this picture is probably thinking to themselves, yes, I was brilliant. This is my 20 minutes of fame. You know. I kind of want to claim it. I kind of want to claim that I did it, so I can take all the credit. But I know I didn't. So
the reviewer, the guy from Destructoid who reviewed Pioneers of Olivetown, also did an article on it, I believe. I don't know the guy. I don't know the guy personally. I know of him through the podcasts that Dan has done with him. And I mean, I watched his review on it, and I pretty much agree with the stuff he's talking about. And I mean, taking photos to use as loading screens, you're going to get someone who's going to do that. Someone is going to try and take it too far. Someone's going to try and put something inappropriate up. It's going to happen.
It is going to happen, especially in a game that's creative where you can actually create things of your own. And the problem I see with it is that Story of Seasons Pioneers of Olivetown is obviously a game meant for young and older audiences alike, but it's supposed to be very PG, you know, nothing adult or mature in that, to that extent. And when you give people the freedoms, they're gonna do crazy stuff. It's like, remember when Nintendo 3DS had that communication thing? Like, there was a way to talk to people with images. Like, you could draw like little text and send them out, and people would send these weird messages to kids who they had friend listed them, and they would just send these pictures, these little scribbles and stuff with notes and all this sort of thing. And so yeah, eventually I think Nintendo had to block it. I think they took that feature down or something. I can't remember what happened with it, but it was a thing that happened, and it's because of the fact that you can't have nice things, because there are creepy people out there, or people out there who will just do it for the laugh. But when they do it for the laugh, we lose that feature in our games. It sucks. It sucks a lot. But Sam, here's the thing. We're at 1 hour and 12 minutes. We're gonna have to save some more of this riveting conversation for another whatever we call this thing.
I mean, we're only about halfway through the history here.
We are, and that's the reason why I think we got to do a part 2 of this, because in a sense, I do want to know more about the history of Infinite Backlog, and I'm sure the listeners want to as well. But then I also have to go eat something. My stomach is empty as hell. I haven't had breakfast. I just had a cup of tea, and I've been eating these Smints, trying to keep myself from like dying. But Smints don't do anything, man. They're just mints. So with an S in the front.
So stay tuned for part 2, where I discuss April Fool's jokes, Power Rangers, my secret obsession with school idols, and
No. Not just that. We haven't even started talking about VTubers and how you basically try to indoctrinate me in this lifestyle that you now live, you know.
I mean, obviously, when I talk about my secret obsession with school idols, as in my closet enjoyment of Love Live, and just about anything to do with it, but I also want to sort of go into details about a lot of the older stuff that I collect, and sort of how it shaped my tastes in games as well.
I think also I want to talk to you about that card game that you're collecting right now that we spoke about recently. And
that would be a very, very short conversation, because I just like the pictures on the cards and I have no idea how to play it. I am going to sit down and one day learn how to play it.
I think that would be a brilliant conversation to be had, as well as to talk about fishing, because that's one of the things that you do. You do go fishing, and it would be interesting to talk about that for some reason, because of the fact that this is supposed to be a conversation about you and what you get up to and all that kind of interesting stuff. So that being said, you good sir, all the way in New Zealand. What time is it right now for you?
Oh, it's only 20 to 12.
20
so it's
to 12.
Only just 20 minutes till midnight.
It's about midnight for you. Perfect. It's about midday for me here. It's 11:40 here in the UK. So, Sam, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Infinite Backlog. You can also hit me up on Twitter at my Twitter handle is at @last_Seraph, or you could go onto the Infinite Backlog one, which is at @IB_reviews. So those are the two public places that you'll be able to get hold of me on.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. What are you gonna do right now?
Me? Well, I am working on a wee translation project at the moment. So once I get this little translation project off the ground and finished, probably back to Harvest Moon for me.
Really? Okay. Wow. I would think that you would just, go to bed or something. It's like midnight, man. Like, what is wrong with you?
It's a long weekend. I don't need to go back to work. I don't need to go back to work till Tuesday, so I've got time to spare.
So you're staying up tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, lucky. Last night I was contemplating staying up, but when you have a missus, right, she's gonna be like, "Oh, come to bed, sweetie. What's the point of being in a relationship if you don't come to bed and I have to sleep alone?" And then you're just like, "Okay, sweetie, I'll bring the Switch and I'll be in bed." And you bring the Switch, and before you know this, you don't actually play the Switch, you just go to bed, which is what happened to me last night. I went to bed. My Switch is under the bed right now.
One thing about being single at the moment is you don't have a significant other telling you that you're not allowed to eat ice cream at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, my missus doesn't tell me what I can do about food or anything like that. She doesn't. The only thing that she's very particular about is she would like me to go to bed around the same time as her. At least roughly around the same time. Even if it's within an hour or 2 hours within when she goes to bed, she's fine with that. And I think more so it bothers her when she wakes up and I'm not there next to her in the bed. But I think generally speaking, because I have ridiculous meals at any kind of hour in the night, and she don't care. That's not gonna bother her. So I can have ice cream whenever I want. I make omelets at 1, 2 in the morning. I'm making omelets, because I feel like I want some dinner, so. Yeah, it's not a thing. It's a thing where we just do what we want, basically, with regards to food. It's more about the time spent and all that kind of stuff. So
was it you that I was talking to when I said that I had said that I can that cooking instant noodles has become a bit of an art form for me?
I don't remember. It may not
Okay,
be.
if it wasn't you, it must have been Phil. If you're listening to this, Phil, I haven't forgotten. I'll send you those photos of how I make noodles at some point.
And you will send them to me now, because now I know of this, and you didn't tell me. So, yes, pretty much. Simply Binge Podcast is a part of the Simply Binge network of podcasts, which include That Beautiful Life and Skill Points. All of our podcasts are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Castbox, and most other podcast apps. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Simply Binge UK. Visit our website simplybinge.com if you'd like links to what we mentioned in the show. And lastly, special thanks to all of our guests for taking the time to share a bit of their insight with us today.